Life is full of choices, so let's explore the best ways to thrive. This is the Connecting You podcast, hosted by me, Myra Richards, and my marketing director, Emily Robinson. Tune in to discover a healed, healthy, and purposeful life.
We're back with season 5 of the Connecting You podcast. This season is talking about the hard truths, the hard conversations of life, and we just talked about grief, which connects to what we're going to talk about today, which is addiction. Not just to drugs, but any form of not having control over doing or taking a certain substance or a certain behavior. Myra, as a counselor, has had close personal experiences and has a good understanding of what addiction means, so I'm ready to open my mind up to that because it's one of those things where it's really hard to find compassion for people.
I also interned for a rehab center.
Okay.
For a year while I was in grad school and learned way too many things that I'm thankful for now. It's been part of my life at some point or another. And thank you for clarifying, especially right now. I think I would say social media, working, exercising, eating, sex, besides the big ones, what we think are big ones, but they're all big to me, which are drug and alcohol.
We should start with the basics, like drug and alcohol addiction.
Hit me. What do you want to know?
What hard truth are we uncovering? What is behind addiction?
Addiction is a symptom of a deeper hurt, wound, trauma, whatever you want to call it. It is how people learn to cope. Usually if I do a genogram, which is like family tree in psychology, you will learn you're more prone to it if your dad, your mom, your grandparents, or somebody in your past family has had an addiction. It can also be habitual, a habit that you just keep doing. This is what I see more with, honestly, what I don't drink as much, because I see moms of littles just use it as, oh, I'm stressed because of my family. It starts as like a simple, I'm gonna have a glass of wine at night because I'm stressed, turns into your kids are with you forever. So 30 years on the road, you're addicted to wine.
That's what we were talking about. Theme behind these hard truths is it's something that follows you. So even though it may have started from that one trauma 30 years prior, if we don't learn how to cope and how it's being harmful to us, then it stays, right? There's no reason for it to really go away. In some sense, we might think it's making our life easier when really it's making it worse.
I think a lot of addicts think that they're fun. It makes them more fun. It makes them social settings, and they're not, right? Addiction hits everybody. At the treatment center that I interned for, I remember whether you were a lawyer or a doctor or you didn't have any degree, you had an addiction, and it hits everybody, and people just think that it's a certain type of people. Now, the most common thread that I saw was that you had some past trauma. It doesn't have to be sexual trauma. I think that when we think of trauma, we think of sexual or abuse. It doesn't have to be that. It can be emotional abandonment. It can be divorce. It can be neglect, especially emotional neglect from parents that we never thought it would be trauma, but it is traumatic for little kids not to feel loved and understood and accepted by their parents. That's something that I wanted to point out, that it is a symptom to a bigger, deeper problem. That is how I start forming compassion. Okay, we're all human, we're all sinners, and this is from somewhere in their past.
What I heard there in terms of this is a symptom of something larger, it reminded me of what you were saying with grief, where you woke up every day and you wanted it to be different, or you wanted it to stop.
Sure.
The grief is there every single day. And with addiction, I think it could start from that one turning point of like, hey, this is a way for the sadness to stop.
Yes.
Immediately, right? Like solution oriented, that loneliness, particularly as a child, and all of those things that keep following you. Addiction can come with a community in various ways. I feel like smoking outside with everyone, like you work at a restaurant, everybody smokes. So you go outside and that's where everybody is hanging out, or you go to a bar and everybody's really chatty and everybody's hanging out.
Yep.
There's so many ways that addiction can sneak its way into your life that we don't think about when we see somebody just on the side of the road with addiction.
Nobody means to become someone who has an addiction because it's not who you are. It's not who you're meant to be, but it is something. It is a disease that you have, that you will have for the rest of your life. It's not going to go away. There are miraculous healings, and that can happen. But the norm is that it's not just going to go away. That you're going to have to put an extreme amount of effort into waking up every day and saying no to yourself. That's another point of compassion that I have for people, because when they're sober, they are the bravest people that I know. Because nobody likes to say no to themselves. And they say no to themselves every single day. That is brave. That is strength. That is purpose.
That reframes the narrative a lot, which as loved ones of people with addiction, it must be hard to watch them hurt themselves day in and day out, and then they hurt you as well. And of course, there's codependency and all that comes around with it. What does healing look like, or what is the path forward, not just for the people with addiction, but the loved ones around them?
It challenges you to have a lot of grace, to look into your own personal life and not judge the person who has the addiction, but instead, I would say, go inward and say, what am I addicted to? What am I making an idol of? What am I using to numb? That could be coffee. That can be exercise. I get a lot of satisfaction from my job. That can be your job. That can be scrolling. I've actually had to take off Instagram because every time that I would get overwhelmed, I would just start scrolling, and that's not the person that I wanted to be. I put it back on and off, right? So I have to use it for work. But for the most part, I had to look at it and be like, this is taking me away from my family. This is taking me away from my time with God. This is taking me away from the person that I want to be. Having that compassion towards, if I am addicted to these things and I didn't even know, like, how much more is the person who actually has an addiction to a drug, whether it's alcohol or a drug, that is so much more in their system.
All of those things, as we said before, it's an aversion to feeling something. Even if you're just watching a movie. Watching a movie, it's not bad, but if you watch, which I've done before, I've watched television for 10 hours, right? And it's because you don't want to deal with whatever it is that you need to deal with, or if you stop doing that thing, what am I going to think about? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Anything that has you in its hold in terms of taking you away from your life, and you feel the pull of, this isn't the thing that I want to be doing.
Yes.
But you keep doing it.
Right.
What step would we take from there? How do you take a step back?
For smaller things like TV or whatever, you start practicing again, I'm going to say this again, you start practicing the saying no to yourself. I'm saying no to this because I want to say yes to something else. So always think of your yes. If you tell an addict not to drink, a higher percent of them drinking is by you telling them not to drink. But if you tell an addict just to focus on being sober, your mind will go towards the light. So focus on the thing, focus on the person that you want to. For me, that is, I want to be a present mom. When I'm saying no to having Instagram and liking the photos, because I do enjoy seeing people's lives, I'm saying no to that, but I am saying yes to something else. So always focus on your yes. Yes, I'm feeling like I want to be a person who's emotionally, spiritually healthy. So I'm going to say no to watching that movie. And I'm going to say yes to sitting with myself and actually figuring out what is going on in my heart that is actually going to lead to fruit and not to withering.
It's that saying, the grass grows where you water it. It's not like the grass is greener on the other side, but what are you focusing your attention on with each decision, with each action? That's what you're watering.
Yes.
For those bigger addictions, how would we take a step forward from that?
Go to the meeting that you're supposed to attend, whether it's NA, SA. Go to a treatment center. I would recommend at least a 90-day program. There are a lot of 30-day programs, and they're not bad. It's like a kickstart, right? But usually you're going to need more than that. And so being aware that is necessary because you have had this habit for a really long time. So to be able to say, okay, this is a 30-day program, but if they are asking me to stay longer, or if I want to stay longer, I can, because I really want to deal with the root of what's going on. In that program, I would look for DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, which helps you recognize what to do when you're triggered, because usually you're triggered and then you drink. So it regulates. It focuses a lot of emotional regulation. I would focus on DBT. I would focus on CBT, that this program has CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, is the changing of your thoughts, right? We just like, don't focus on the no's, but focus on the yes. Let's not focus on your failures, but focus on your wins. It's shifting your negative thoughts to positive thoughts. Then I would ask that they are deeply trauma focused, because you need to know the little T traumas, the little traumas that for me, you know, like my mom worked a lot, I felt abandoned, or my mom was going through a divorce, not the divorce herself, that would be a big T trauma, and I felt like I was emotionally abandoned, to like deeper sexual abuse, physical abuse, all the things. I would absolutely recommend that your treatment center has that. After you get out, go into the meetings and go into counseling. Those things, and having a community, shifting your community. If your community is only about using drugs or smoking pot or whatever, you need to shift it. You need to get out of it. That's just not going to work, at least not for the first few years. There's just no way. You are like the 5 people you surround yourself by the most. That is true. I do believe that to be true.
For me, it all starts with that honesty as well, because if you don't admit, hey, this was a problem for me, then you're never going to get that ball rolling. When I see people who are addicted to not just drugs, but behaviors like controlling their food intake or working out. Dating. Oh my gosh, don't get me started. When I see people who are addicted to dating or these things, you're never going to get anywhere with the person who doesn't admit that it's a problem.
Right.
That is the biggest, most honest step. And we try to tell ourselves, like, no, it's not a problem, because then we would have to work on it. As you were saying, the little T traumas, we diminish it. Like, you weren't emotionally abandoned. Your mom just had work, and it was something that you should get over. We don't let in that honesty of what's behind this behavior.
You have to be honest. It's humility. You have to close to yourself in humility and say, what I'm doing is not working anymore. What I'm doing has never worked, because it's never gotten me to who I want to be or what I want to give to my kids or friends. If you're single, it hasn't worked. It's clothing yourself in humility and saying, like, I don't want to live like this anymore. This thing has a stronghold on me, and I'm giving it power.
There's the hope in this story for people who have yet to get to the point where they can admit this to themselves.
The hope is not getting sober. That is great if you do. But the hope is that you get healing. That person within you that has been hurting for years and years and years actually gets some healing around their hearts. And that will change everything. That is a true transformation of the heart that will lead you to closer relationships. It will lead you to a healthier physical being, a spiritual connection. It will lead you to everything that you've ever wanted. Those things are in the other side. Getting sober is just the first step. Healing is what we're looking for.
It's definitely a dedication to that change, because the person who you were before is somebody who is familiar to you and who you understand. There's probably going to be mourning even in just leaving the bad stuff behind and going forward.
Especially in circumstances where that has been your community. That is going to be sad that you leave your community. But that was not the community that is giving you life. It's leaving you dry, it's leaving you dead inside. So it's shifting. There's going to be a grieving in that. But it's worth it. I've never met an addict who's left their past lives and not said that it's worth it. If you're codependent, if you have somebody with an addiction, I would go to Al-Anon. I would read some books. Codependent No More is really good. I would set up boundaries. Boundaries are fences. They're not walls. They're not shut doors. They're fences, just for your own protection and even for the protection of the person that you are encountering.
As we wrap up today's episode, we are grateful you join us to explore what it means to remain connected to God, to yourself, and to others. To stay updated on future episodes, be sure to hit that subscribe button and connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Remain Connected. Counseling appointments can be made at RemainConnectedLLC.com. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, may you find peace in your connections and blessings in every step of your journey. Have